Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. It is being reported that President Trump will announce tomorrow, that's Wednesday, his decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the nation of Israel. The entire world is warning against this move, but it appears the decision is already made. We'll discuss the implications of this momentous decision on today's edition of End of the Age. You won't want to miss it. Well, first of all, let's begin. How did this present situation develop? How did the status of Jerusalem come to be in dispute? What happened was, on November the 29th of 1947, when the United Nations made a vote to create an Israeli state and a Palestinian state in the area called Palestine, that vote was accepted by the Israelis, but it was rejected by the Arabs. Now, when they made this vote, they decided to place Jerusalem in a very special status, an international status, under the supervision of the United Nations. However, this was not a binding resolution that was done by the United Nations, Resolution 181. Consequently, when the Arabs rejected it, it really became worthless. Nevertheless, when Israel declared its independence on May the 14th of 1948, 5 Arab nations descended upon this fledgling state of about 600,000 people in an attempt to destroy it before it could ever really be born. Amazingly, it didn't work. Instead, Israel not only survived, but even gained a little more territory than that which was allocated by the United Nations. Now remember, the Resolution 181 was rejected. It was not binding. So everything's being decided now by war. After the ceasefire was declared in 1949, Jordan had come across the Jordan River in an attempt to destroy Israel, and they stayed in the West Bank, occupying the West Bank, including half of Jerusalem. They occupied East Jerusalem from 1949 until 1967. In 1967, when Nasser of Egypt decided he was strong enough to destroy Israel, he made a military pact with Jordan and with Syria. They prepared to launch an attack against Israel. Israel was not going to stay there like a sitting duck, so Israel launched a preemptive attack against Egypt. But at the same time, Israel contacted Jordan, King Hussein of Jordan, and said, "We have nothing against you. If you will stay out of the conflict, we won't bother you. But if you attack us, we will counterattack with all of our might." Well, King Hussein of Jordan didn't feel like he could stand idly by while his Arab brethren were fighting against the hated Zionist entity, so he jumped into the war. Israel counterattacked, drove Jordan out of East Jerusalem and all the way out of the West Bank and back across the Jordan River where she had come from in 1948. So again, the boundaries are being determined by armed conflict. The attack of Jordan on Israel was an aggressive attack because Israel had said, "We don't want war." But Jordan said, "Well, we do." And they attacked. Consequently, they lost the ground they had illegally obtained in the 1948 War of Independence. So now Israel has control of all of Jerusalem. They annexed East Jerusalem in 1980, declaring Jerusalem the eternal undivided capital of Israel. But the United Nations says, oh no, we don't accept that. We don't accept your control over Jerusalem. Now, what right did the United Nations have to assert this? Because it was not a binding resolution, Resolution 181, and they really had no right to say anything about Jerusalem at that time. Israel had won Jerusalem according to the laws of war. Well, that's never been accepted, and the United Nations pressured all the nations of the world to move their embassies out of Jerusalem and move them over to Tel Aviv, claiming that Tel Aviv was the capital of Israel. Now remember this, though. Every nation on earth has the right to choose its own capital. Well, every nation except one, Israel. The United Nations says, we do not recognize Jerusalem as your capital. However, in 1995, the American Congress, realizing the unjustness of this situation, decided to pass the Jerusalem Embassy Act, and they voted in 1995 that by 1999, the embassy had to be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, recognizing our ally, our friend, recognizing their chosen capital, because the injustice of the present situation was fully understood. However, they made a mistake. They built in a little clause that said if the president makes a judgment that would endanger the national security of the United States of America, he can ask for a 6-month waiver. So what happened? Well, President Clinton, from that point on, went to the Congress and asked for a waiver every 6 months until he was out of office. Then George W. Bush, every 6 months, even though he had promised during his campaign, I will move the embassy the very day of my inauguration. But he was inaugurated twice and never moved the embassy 1 inch. He didn't tell us the truth. Then Barack Obama came along, same story. Every 6 months, he went to the Congress, signed the waiver, stating it would endanger national security to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Well, when President Trump was campaigning for the presidency, he said, I will move the embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the nation of Israel. Well, everybody wondered, can we believe this guy? He's not the normal politician. He claims he will do it. But there's something about getting in that office and you get access to all of the intelligence reports, and they always end up wimping out, it appears. And sure enough, the first 6 months rolled around, and President Trump was doing his best to put together a peace deal. So he said that for 6 months, he signed the waiver, but said, we're still going to do it. By now, all of us are saying, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. That's what everybody says. I mean, the waiver's now been signed 44 times or so. Well, it was time to sign the waiver again, December the 4th, Monday. Now, if he didn't sign the waiver, he's obligated to move the embassy to Jerusalem according to U.S. law, and he's not allowed to break the law. However, it seems like there's a few days slack if you don't sign the waiver. But everybody who's wanted to know what's going to happen. And Vice President Pence made a speech a few days ago saying that it's under very serious consideration. All of us said, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And because we were in the middle of this peace process that President Trump and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Jason Greenblatt, his longtime lawyer, they've been working on it feverishly ever since President Trump took office in 2017. It looked like, oh, he'll wait because he won't want to throw all of this work in jeopardy. And so we all also, including myself, I thought he probably will put it off again, hoping to move the embassy when he's able to sign a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians and the Arab neighbors. Because it looked like good things were happening. Well, when Vice President Pence said that he's given serious consideration to moving the embassy and recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, I thought, really? Because Vice President Pence is not known for lying or for misleading. And I thought, surely not. However, the reports started pouring in today that President Trump had called Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinians. He had called King Abdullah of Jordan. He had called Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and said, I'm going to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the nation of Israel tomorrow. And I'm not going to move the embassy. I won't have time to do it that quick, but I will end up moving the embassy as well. Well, when that started to hit in the news, I mean, story after story after story. I've been reading them all day long today. Let me give you some examples. This story is entitled, Trump Reportedly Informs Abbas, Jordan's Abdullah, he intends to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Now, this comes in Haaretz newspaper just today. U.S. President Donald Trump informed Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Jordan's King Abdullah that he plans to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem on Tuesday, according to Abbas' spokesman and Jordanian reports. Abbas warned Trump that the action will have dangerous consequences. Abbas spokesman Nabil Abu Redineh said the Palestinian stance is determined and steadfast. There will not be a Palestinian state without East Jerusalem as its capital, according to decisions by the international community. Now let's stop right there. Why will there not be a Palestinian state without Jerusalem as its capital? Has it ever been the capital of the Palestinian state? No, there's never even been a Palestinian state. So then why do they have to have Jerusalem as their capital? Now, I haven't ever had anyone answer that question for me yet. They have been using their capital in Ramallah, about 20 miles north of Jerusalem, and that seems to be working out just fine for them. Why do they insist, oh no, we must have Jerusalem, which has never been the capital of any other nation except Israel? I'm talking about in the last 3,000 years. Now all of a sudden the Palestinians say, oh no, that's ours. Well, let me continue. Abu Mazen, which is another name for Mahmoud Abbas, is now holding an emergency meeting in his bureau following the phone conversation with Trump. According to Jordanian reports, Abdullah warned Trump of the decision's repercussions on Middle East security and stability. He reportedly pledged that he would thwart any American initiative to renew the peace process and would encourage rage and resistance among Muslims and Christians alike. An Abbas aide commented Tuesday that if the Trump administration decides to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, the Palestinian leadership would sever ties with the U.S. administration. Abdullah reportedly spoke to Abbas Tuesday, allegedly deciding to act in complete coordination following the report on Trump's decision. Now think about this. So who's got the most to lose? If the Palestinians sever contacts with the United States, we're infusing their hundreds of millions of dollars per year to support their government. We are the only brake on Israel, keeping Israel from totally declaring all the occupied territories as Israeli territory. And if they did that, who can stop them? The Palestinians can't stop them. They're militarily weak. The UN can't stop them because they can't get a resolution through the UN Security Council because Donald Trump has absolute veto power over UN security resolutions. So President Trump knows he's operating from a position of strength. Furthermore, if it were not for the United States and Israel, ISIS would have invaded Jordan and taken over Jordan, and King Abdullah knows that. So is he going to make a complete break with Israel and the United States? I'm telling you, this is power politics at its finest. But let's go on. Meanwhile, Israeli ministers were instructed on Tuesday not to speak publicly about the embassy crisis at the request of the White House. Let us manage the PR. That's what that means. Trump on Tuesday also spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu. The White House confirmed. Nabil Shath, a senior Palestinian official, had especially harsh words for saying the mother of all deals dies here on the rocks in Jerusalem if he says tomorrow that he recognizes a united Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Let's stop right there. What if he would only say, I recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and not a united Jerusalem? Now, I don't know what he's going to say. But let's just say we're recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. After all, Vladimir Putin did it a few months ago. Why shouldn't we? And yes, we are planning on moving our embassy, but we're located in West Jerusalem. What if Trump has it in his mind to leave that door open just a crack? Continuing on, the article said on Saturday, Hamas leaders call for a popular uprising to thwart the ongoing, quote, conspiracy. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Tuesday that if Trump goes ahead with the decision, Turkey will cut off diplomatic ties with Israel. He added that Jerusalem is a red line for Muslims. I wonder why that is. Could it be because God said 37 times in the Old Testament, I'll put my name in Jerusalem? And could all this be a forerunner of what the Bible prophesies, that Jerusalem is the issue that's going to trigger the battle of Armageddon? Continuing, Israel responded that Jerusalem has been the Jewish capital for 3,000 years. Egypt has warned of possible dangerous repercussions if U.S. President Donald Trump follows through on plans to recognize contested Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Egypt's foreign ministry said Tuesday that Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry had discussed the matter with his French counterpart. It said they called on the Trump administration to wait and reconsider. I mean, we've only been waiting since forever, but particularly since 1995. What is there to wait about? According to Saudi media, an official source at the Saudi Foreign Ministry said that Trump's potential recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital would have very serious implications and would be seen as provocative to all Muslims' feelings. Arab League chief Ahmed Abdul Gate said Tuesday that any step changing Jerusalem's status quo would be a dangerous measure that would have repercussions throughout the Middle East. He encouraged Trump to reconsider his decision. What I'm telling you is the whole world's piling on here, and it leaves Donald Trump pretty much standing alone. EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini said that any action would undermine a two-state solution. Now, why would that be? Can't they have two states without Jerusalem as the capital of Palestinians, since it's never been the capital of Palestinians? Why not? She doesn't explain, but must be avoided. She added that Jerusalem must become a joint capital for both Israel and the Palestinians. Why? Because the Palestinians say, we're not going to sign a peace agreement if we don't get part of Jerusalem. And why do they want part of Jerusalem? They know the spiritual significance of it, because if Israel agrees to surrender Jerusalem, the place where God said, I'll put my name there, and that's where their first temple stood, and that's where their second temple stood. If Israel agrees to that, they know Israel is compromised on her only legitimate explanation as to why there should be a Jewish nation in the Middle East. I mean, if they don't have the promise that God made to Abraham in Genesis 15:18, where he said, I pledge to you, I make a covenant with you this day, that the land on which you dwell will be yours and your descendants after you forever. Without that divine covenant, then Israel just went in and stole a bunch of territory. Well, after a call with Trump on Monday, French President Emmanuel Macron expressed concern that the U.S. president would unilaterally recognize Jerusalem as the capital. He stated that the Jerusalem issue must be dealt with in the framework of peace negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. Now, let me pause right there. Did any of them say anything when 5 Arab nations came stampeding across the borders in 1948 to try to eradicate the newborn Jewish nation? No, they were silent as the graveyard. But now all of a sudden, they're there to tell everybody how it must be when, who was the aggressor in 1967? Jordan. The Prime Minister of Israel specifically sent a message to King Abdullah of Jordan. We have nothing against you. If you stay out of the war, we will not attack you. But they jumped into the war. They were the aggressor. And they lost territory they had illegally gained 19 years before that. Sounds like to me Israel has every right to the city of Jerusalem. Well, German Foreign Minister Sigmar Gabriel said on Tuesday that a solution regarding Jerusalem's status can only be found through direct negotiations between the two parties, adding that anything that escalated the crisis during these times is counterproductive. He further took a stab at Trump, can you imagine that, saying that there is a limit to our solidarity regarding U.S.-German relations in light of the decision. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, hear me carefully. We're dealing with the issue that will end up triggering the battle of Armageddon. That's what we're talking about today. That's what President Trump apparently is going to address tomorrow. And it's going to leave Israel and the United States pretty much on one side and the world on the other side. So I said, oh, he shouldn't do that. Well, maybe he should. I mean, after all, if God is for you, who can be against you? And if God said, I will put my name there, and instructed Solomon to build the temple on the Temple Mount, and then the second temple was built on the Temple Mount. If this was all done by mandate of God, anybody that's against that is against God, and anybody that's for that is for God. So now we find this American president who no one thought would win, but he continues to do things that apparently line up with the prophecies of the Bible and the plan of God. Now let me pause just a moment, because things are moving. I don't know where all this is going to go. Could this cause the breakout of Muslim anger around the world? Could this be the trigger that produces the Sixth Trumpet War that's supposed to start from the Euphrates River, and the Euphrates River is an Islamic, 100% Islamic river? Could this be the trigger? We've all been wondering what's going to do it. Could this be the trigger that would start World War III? I don't know the answer to that. All I know is we are dealing with the central issue that's going to ultimately lead us to the Battle of Armageddon. You say, that scares me. Why? It's at Armageddon that Jesus returns to this earth and finally straightens the world out. Once we get to Armageddon, yes, it's going to be frightening, but once we get there and it looks like Israel's about to lose that war, the Bible teaches that Jesus Christ is going to personally come and intervene, and that's when the armies of this world will be defeated, the governments of this world will be set aside, and we will crown Jesus Christ King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in prophetic territory today and tomorrow You better believe it. Okay, now, why am I talking about this? Because I don't know when the peace agreement is going to be signed that triggers the final 7 years. However, I know one thing, you and I need to get ready. Are you preparing for that time? We have launched an effort here at Endtime Ministries called the Endtime 1000. Because in order for you and me to get ready, we got to know what the prophecies say and what we're really talking about. The Bible tells us that in the end time, which is now, that they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Now, that needs to be you and me. We don't need one or two. We need 1,000 people. I wish we could get 10,000. But let's go for 1,000 first. I want you to be one of those 1,000. How? I'm asking you to get through the Jerusalem Prophecy College curriculum as quickly as you possibly can. Because you can't be, the Bible says, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You cannot explain to others unless you understand yourself. How do you become a part of the Endtime 1000? Simply go on your computer to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. That's JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. All the instructions are right there. Simply follow the instructions, sign up. The tuition is ridiculously low. We've made it as low as we possibly could and still function. So go there, go through the Jerusalem Prophecy College. That will get you ready. You will know this material like the back of your hand. And so I'm urging you, don't wait till tomorrow. Do it today. Do it right now. JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Sign up today to be a part of the Endtime 1000 that God is going to use in these end times.
Are you certain where you will spend eternity? The Truth Seeker package will give you a deeper understanding of the Bible and brings clarity to salvation. Available for a limited time only, the Truth Seeker package is made up of 22 lessons, each specifically designed to take your spiritual growth to the next level and to deepen your relationship with God. Join Irvin Baxter on this amazing journey through the Scriptures, revealing the uncompromising truth of the Bible. For a limited time, order the Truth Seeker package for your gift of $100 or more. Just call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Or visit endtime.com today. The Truth Seeker package, taking the filters off of traditional religion, experiencing the Word in its purest form.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter, the new book by Irvin's grandson, provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your connection to God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Order this brand new book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archives button.
We are going to be taking your calls on today's program. However, before I go there, I've got another article I want to quote a few things from. The article comes from Israel National News just today. Trump to recognize Jerusalem, embassy move to come later. Now, this is an important article. Take a listen. U.S. President Trump will recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the state of Israel in a speech Wednesday. The New York Times is reporting. According to the Times, Trump will also announce the beginning of the process of moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So he's going to announce that the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital and start the process of moving the embassy. but he is expected to sign the security waiver, which would delay the move by another 6 months. U.S. officials stated that the reasons for signing the waiver are logistical in nature and that the time was necessary to make the transition from Tel Aviv to new offices in Jerusalem. Now, that's what's being said. However, this article appeared just yesterday or today. Jerusalem mayor says U.S. embassy move can be done in 2 minutes. This comes from the Jerusalem Post today. Here's what he had to say. Jerusalem mayor Nir Barkat said on Tuesday that moving the U.S. embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to the Holy City can take 2 minutes. Barkat said the United States would only have to convert one of its existing assets in the city, such as its consulate located in West Jerusalem. In our time before last trip to Israel, we took our group by the building he's referring to, the consulate, and stated at that time, all they have to do is take the sign down that says consulate, replace it with a sign that says embassy, and bingo, it's a done deal. Barkat went on to say, they just take the symbol of the consulate and switch it to the embassy symbol. 2 American Marines can do it in 2 minutes and give Ambassador David Friedman a space to sit in, Barkat told Israel Radio. The implementation of this decision is immediate, and then later slowly start moving the employees in a more structured manner to begin providing services in Jerusalem, Barkat said. There's a lot of things that go on at the embassy. People come there every day to try to get visas to travel here, to travel there. Sometimes the lines are a block long, so there has to be adequate facilities to get all this done. The article goes on to say the status of Jerusalem is one of the major stumbling blocks in decades of on and off Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. These talks have been going on for decades with no breakthrough. Now all of a sudden something's shifting. Why is Donald Trump doing this now? Is he torpedoing the talks that he's been working so diligently on? His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, his personal attorney, Jason Greenblatt, have they reached a place where they realize they can't get the two sides together? So I'm going to shake things up. Is that what's going on? I don't know the answer to that. I imagine we'll hear more explanation from President Trump tomorrow. And David Robbins will be here on this program to tell you more about it tomorrow, so don't miss it. Now, the Palestinians want East Jerusalem as the capital of their future state. Israel considers all of the city as indivisible, eternal capital. Jerusalem is home to sites holy to Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And by the way, all those sites were not available to anyone except Muslims as long as the Muslims were in control. Now that Israel's in control, Israel has opened it up to Muslims, Jews, Christians, and all people. They have access to Jerusalem. Now, Israel captured East Jerusalem during the 1967 Middle East War and later annexed it, a move not recognized internationally. Okay, one more thing I want you to hear before I come to the phones. Palestinians say 3 days of rage over Trump's decision on Jerusalem. This is from today's Jerusalem Post. The Palestinian factions announced 3 days of rage from Wednesday to Friday in protest of U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to transfer the American embassy from Tel Aviv. The Palestinian factions called President Trump's policy political blackmail, which would destroy his ability to achieve regional or colonistic achievements in the region. In a joint statement, the Palestinian National and Islamic Forces announced 3 days of rage that would begin Wednesday and end on Friday. We call on all our people in Israel and around the world to gather in city centers and Israeli embassies and consulates with the aim of bringing about general popular anger, the statement said. The statement added that a huge protest should be launched in order to reject out of hand the attempts of the U.S. administration to transfer the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem or recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the state of Israel. The right of the people and the nation to act in all legal and diplomatic ways within the international community, the international law in The Hague, in order to torpedo this attempt. The statement said, calling for an emergency meeting of the leaders of the Islamic countries and the Jerusalem Committee to emphasize their rejection of the American moves in Jerusalem. Well, there's so much more, but I want to get to the phones now. So let's move there. You can go ahead and start dialing. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463. Now, do you notice what the Palestinians were saying? We are going to appeal to the International Criminal Court, and we're going to appeal to the United Nations to settle this. In other words, we're going to the world government. But ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as a world government, is there? The United Nations claims to be a world government, and they aspire to be a world government, but yet the United States and Israel wisely pulled their signatures from the International Criminal Court so that they're not under the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, even though the International Criminal Court likes to threaten them as though they were under its jurisdiction. It's very critical that the United States never bows to the authority of the United Nations. We have veto power there. We should never bow to the authority, because the United Nations just recently voted 151-6 to not recognize any rights of Israel in Jerusalem, on the Temple Mount, or in the West Bank. But let them vote till their fingers turn blue, because we don't believe in world government. They have no say-so whatsoever in Jerusalem. Now, while I say that, the United Nations is going to continue to build power until they're going to claim authority, and they will invade Israel at the Battle of Armageddon. But that's a few years from right now. All this is tied together. Okay. Wow, we got such a hot topic and so little time, but let's get started. Let's go right now. Let's go to Eric, calling from right here in Texas. Hello, Eric.
How you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering why we would move our embassy to a city that Jesus spiritually called Sodom and Egypt.
Probably because Tel Aviv is even worse. However, it's more than that, Eric. Even though it's presently called Sodom and Egypt, that will soon change. When Jesus comes, it will change dramatically and overnight. Furthermore, even before the second coming of Jesus to this earth, there's a revival prophesied for Jerusalem. So yes, Jerusalem is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, and that's the description given to Jerusalem in Revelation chapter number 11. You're absolutely right. But the Bible also prophesies a great revival for the nation of Israel between now and the Battle of Armageddon, and then continuing on into the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. So I understand the question. It's a legitimate question, but that's what I believe the answer is.
Cool, and I was just wondering, you were talking about the money that we give Palestine. You know, we give Israel about 20 times that much money a year.
Yeah, presently our budget allocates $3 billion a year to Israel. Here's my feeling, Eric, and I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about who we should support or who we should not support. I don't think, number one, we should hate anyone. We should not hate Palestinians. We should not hate Russians. We should not hate Israelis. Christians are not called to hate anyone. However, when it comes to the political dispute in the Middle East, who is Jesus Christ going to fight on the side of when he comes back? According to Zechariah chapter 14, verse 1 through 4, the Bible says the Lord will go forth and fight against the world government armies of the United Nations, and he will fight on the side of Israel at that time. If he's going to fight on the side of Israel, I'm going to be on the side of Israel.
Okay, wouldn't Israel mean Christians?
Okay, you're breaking up, Eric, so I can't really hear what you're saying now.
All right, just wondering, when he was talking about Israel, wasn't he talking about the Christians?
Again, you're breaking up really bad. I think you're asking.
Okay, no problem, sir. You have yourself a great day.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, Eric, but I
No
couldn't.
problem. No problem. I'll talk to you down the line. You have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much, Eric, and appreciate your phone call very much. I think we have time. Let's go to Karen calling from Arkansas. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Brother Baxter. I have two questions. I'll try to make it quick. My first one is in Revelation 20, starting in verse 4, where it talks about those who John saw were those who were beheaded and have come through the tribulation. I remember years ago it was taught that that would be the way anyone who didn't accept the mark was killed. Is that accurate?
There undoubtedly will be that, yes. The Bible tells us that many people who will not accept the mark, who rebel from the Antichrist, that many of them will be beheaded or killed in some other fashion. So yes, that's going to happen. Any place the Antichrist has the dominion.
Okay, but it's not just beheadings, correct?
It's not just what?
It's not just beheadings, correct?
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be many other forms of killing. For example, the two witnesses are going to be killed and they're going to lie dead in the streets for 3.5 days, according to Revelation chapter number 11. Then they're going to raise from the dead, stand up, and go up into heaven. So they're probably shot, is probably the way they're going to be killed.
Okay, all right. And then my last question is, when it comes to the beast, the world government, do you think that there is significance in the fact that, like, the head is the lion, Great Britain, and the feet belong to Russia? Is there significance in the body part that they represent?
Absolutely. That tells us that Russia, Great Britain, Germany, and the 10-nation alliance, soon to emerge from Europe, those will all be the power base of the Antichrist. So now, whether the Russian being the feet and Germany being the body, Germany's always been the body of the Holy Roman Empire. So whether that is significant or not, but it is significant, all of them will be a part of the kingdom of the Antichrist. Well, we're up against a hard break here, Karen, so I'm going to let you go. Hope that answered that question for you. We'll be right back taking more of your calls. You're listening to End of the Age. Give us a call 877-END-TIME.
Turn your scriptures from black and white into color. Experience the footsteps of Jesus. Understand Bible prophecy that is coming to pass right now. Join Irvin and Judy Baxter and the Endtime team this spring 2018 for a life-changing trip to Israel and Jordan. Mark your calendar for April 26th through May 11th for this amazing journey. Call 1-800-ENDTIME, that's 1-800-363-8463 and press 2, or go to endtime.com/Israel-tour to receive your information today.
Endtime survives on the goodness of God, product sales, and donations from our wonderful partners. If you find Endtime to be a blessing to your life, consider us in your year-end giving for 2017. Our Endtime team cannot reach the world alone, but with our partners and the God we serve, nothing is impossible. To be a part of this great cause, call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 or visit endtime.com/give.
In case you're just joining us, the reports are out, many of them, stating that President Trump is going to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital tomorrow and start the process of moving our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He'll be making a speech tomorrow, according to the New York Times, the Jerusalem Post, Israel National News, and many other publications. Let's go right back to the phones now. David's calling from right here in Dallas. Hello, David.
Hello, Irvin. Irvin, how could anybody deny, knowing prophecy, that we're not in the last days right now with such relevant things that you've reported today? fixing to happen. I don't know how anybody could deny.
You know, David, you're
Knowledgeable.
absolutely right, especially when the Bible has such specific prophecies about Jerusalem. And the
Right.
Bible does prophesy that Israel is not going to share Jerusalem
Right.
during the final 7 years. And this move by Trump probably is going to reinforce that. So I think you're absolutely right. We're watching prophecy unfolding right in front of our eyes right now.
I think Trump and Netanyahu in the last many years are the two individuals that God has brought forth to fulfill his prophecy. And I stand on that statement because the way Trump defeated Hillary Clinton when he was 99-1 to go down and she was going to win, and the way Netanyahu finally rose up in Israel to lead that nation since he got elected. I just think they were the two that God was looking for. And have you ever in the past ever known anybody named Trump until Donald Trump came on the scene? And that word's in the Bible. But I have never known a Trump in my life until Donald Trump came on. Have
Well,
you?
it is certainly interesting. And, you know, when we look at this and we see that President Trump has drawn America out of the world governmental system, and the Bible prophesies we will not be a part of the world governmental system, that combo beast that a recent caller asked about with the body of the leopard, the feet of the bear, the mouth of the lion, no eagle's wings. And yet the eagle is depicted as helping Israel against the world government, beast of the Antichrist. It's like everything is falling into place. And so you're absolutely right, David. I appreciate you pointing it out.
Thank you, Irvin.
Thank you, David. And by the way, if you're out there and we're sort of speaking Greek to you and you say, I don't know what you're talking about, body of the leopard, feet of the bear, mouth of the lion, that means you've never been through our Understanding the End Time series. Let me tell you, if you've not been through that series, that should be your number one request as a Christmas present. We have 14 one-hour DVDs that should be mandatory in every school, in every college, in every church, in every family. Everybody needs to go through this right now because we have explained the prophecies of the end time. That's the reason we called it Understanding the End Time. I would call right now, 1-800-END-TIME, and order my copy of the 14 one-hour DVDs and get through that as fast as you can. You'll never see the world the same again. You'll understand what is really going on behind the scenes. Don't forget now, that number to call is 1-800-END-TIME. To be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. Let's get back to the phones, and let's go to Jonathan calling from Georgia. Hello, Jonathan.
How you doing, Mr. Irvin?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Just wanted to tell you how happy I am to have people like you out there reaching out and trying to uncover people's eyes so they can see the truth.
I appreciate it.
What I was going to say, I've been doing a lot of research on end times now for probably about the past decade, and I was just going to bring the question to you on, you know, Scripture tells us that there'll be many antichrists that will come and false prophets, and due to that, I think that, you know, people, you know, can read Scripture and try to mimic it. And as the caller before, I agree that I really truly think that Trump, you know, has a fulfillment in God's prophecy and, you know, and whatnot. But I was going to ask you on what was your impression on Jared Kushner's job that he has and the opinions and fulfillments and teachings that the Jews have about their Messiah to come, which, according to my research, translates that they believe that an actual human Messiah will come, and that translates to what we would call the Antichrist or the Islamic Mahdi or whatnot. And I was just going to ask about how Jared Kushner's job and what he's actually trying to do, on what you thought about all that and about how the Jewish Messiah, because a lot of the debates that I hear, people say he's going to be this and he's going to be Turkish or he's going to be Iranian or from Iraq or wherever. And what is your opinion on a Jewish Antichrist?
Yeah, well, Jonathan, first of all, Jared Kushner, of course, is Jewish. However, the Bible teaches the Antichrist must come from Europe. Now, we probably don't have time to go into all the theology of that today. He must come from the Holy Roman Empire reborn. And for anybody that would like to know how we know that, one of the DVDs of the Understanding the End Time series is called The Rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire. That is so critical for people to understand because the Antichrist will come from there. Now, I know a lot of people are wondering, could Jared Kushner be the Antichrist? I absolutely do not believe he can be. Furthermore, this move by Donald Trump may well end his efforts for peace in the Middle East, because if the Arabs react like they say they're going to react because of this action that he's taken, then they're going to be absolutely out. Mahmoud Abbas said that he's going to break all relationship with the United States of America. Now, I don't know whether they will actually do that or not.
What got me to that whole conclusion, or that frame of mind, if you will, would be how you were saying earlier about how tomorrow is the big day on Trump's announcement. And if you figure up the timeline of the 7 years and such, I was kind of in my way, which, like I said, I don't have time to do all that, and I know you have many other callers, but that's what led me to that question.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, the big thing is this. The big thing to realize is that there's no way that Trump's announcement tomorrow can be the beginning of the final 7 years. The Bible teaches that it will be when the confirmation of the Jewish right to exist is accomplished, and there will be a peace agreement signed, and that peace agreement has to create a Palestinian state. It has to put the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement. Now, I will tell you this. There's another interesting thing I did not get to today. But Saudi Arabia has just put forward a peace plan in the last couple of days that will shock you. Now, I'll probably be back with you on Thursday about that because we do need to talk about it. Nevertheless, that's a whole nother situation. But unless there's something I cannot foresee, this looks like this will probably bring the peace efforts of Donald Trump to a screeching halt, and the baton will probably pass to someone else to ever try to get a peace deal done. That's the way it looks from where I'm sitting right now, according to all that they're saying.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Baxter, for your time, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I'm going to move quickly now, try to get to everybody real quick. Here we go. Let's go to Diane from right here in Texas. Hello, Diane.
Hello, Irvin. How are you today?
I'm doing very good, thank you.
My question is kind of on the same lines as they were talking about the peace agreement. What I was wanting to know is, does it make more sense that the peace agreement would be signed before the battle of the Third World War because of the fact that America is supposed to protect Israel? And would they be able to do that after a war started, especially if we got bombed by China? And I'll take your answer off the air.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Well, the Bible doesn't explicitly say which will come first, the peace agreement or the war that kills 1/3 of mankind. I've thought for a while that the war would have to come first because it's hard to envision a war taking place during that first 3.5 years of the final 7 when they've just signed this peace agreement, the temple's being rebuilt, and it will apparently be a time of peace and safety, supposedly. However, I don't know for sure because the Bible does not indicate for certain. Could it be that this war would break out after the temple is finished or during the time the temple is being built? I simply don't know. However, would it be possible that a war would break out as a result of what President Trump's going to do tomorrow? Because they're threatening Muslims everywhere are going to start a day of rage, 3 days of rage. And who knows but what 3 days could turn into 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years. I don't know. The war could start tomorrow. So that we're just going to have to simply wait and see on this. All I know is the war starts from the Euphrates River, which is a 100% Islamic river, and there will be an army of 200 million soldiers, and Islam has an adequate population to field an army of 200 million soldiers. So it certainly could start tomorrow from everything I can see from the prophecies of the Bible. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. Okay, quickly, let's go to William from right here in Texas. Hello, William.
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention is, number one, I wanted to thank you for, all the help you've been giving to many people and all the prophecies you have been sharing with a lot of people. And the one question I have is, what major prophecies should we look forward to being fulfilled in the next few years? I mean, 'cause I know there's a lot of things going on, so...
The next two prophecies that to me are the biggest is this war that kills 1/3 of mankind and the peace agreement. The peace agreement is going to be huge because once that's signed, you can mark your calendar. We're 7 years away from Armageddon. We'll be 3.5 years away from the revealing of the Antichrist and the beginning of the Great Tribulation. So when that peace agreement is signed, it sets everything into motion. However, when this war takes place, it's going to dramatically change the world forever. The Bible says that 1/3 of mankind is going to be destroyed. When we have to bury 2.5 billion human beings, there's going to be such a cry for world government and for structures that'll keep us safe. So those two things, both of them will change our world forever. Of course, there's going to be many other things happening in the meantime. We're going to see the development of a cashless society. We're going to see the rise of the mark of the beast as soon as the Antichrist comes to power. But the two biggest things right now is the peace agreement and also the war that kills 1/3 of mankind. I'll tell you what, William, I am out of time. Got to let you go. I think I better not try to take another call because we're out of time. I apologize to those of you that are left on my screen, but please call back tomorrow or sometime the rest of this week. Appreciate it very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are in prophetic territory, to say the least. And you need to know what's going on beyond all doubt. I'm asking you to become a part of the group that God will use in these end times. We're calling it the Endtime 1000. Fortunately, we have an online college available that will teach you what you need to know. It's called the Jerusalem Prophecy College. You can enroll today. You can enroll by going to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. And right there, it'll tell you everything you need. We want to have 1,000 people. I'd like to get 1,000 before the end of December. And I know this is a busy time of the year, but still, there's nothing as important as what we're talking about right now. So the Bible says in these last times, there will be a group of people, they that understand among the people shall instruct many. That's Daniel chapter number 11, verse number 33. I want you to be in that prophecy. The Bible says, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You graduate from the Jerusalem Prophecy College, you'll know more about prophecy than 95% of the graduates from theological seminary. So right now, go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Get in, become one of the Endtime 1000. We need you, God needs you, and you'll be blessed.
End of the Age is a production of Endtime Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Endtime Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.